So before we get started, let me just tell you why you want to be attending all 5 days of this free training. First thing is you're going to avoid a C-section that is unplanned, unnecessary, and unwanted if you follow what I'm going to be teaching you. You're going to avoid getting tricked into an induction. You're going to avoid getting tricked into a highly medicalized birth. You're going to avoid birth trauma. You're going to avoid having a lot of pain in your birth. You're going to avoid having those regrets and wishing that things were different. And you're going to avoid having your birth plan go out the window. How many times do you hear from moms, don't write a birth plan because everything's going to go out the window? Some doctors don't even tell you to write a plan at all. They discourage birth plans. And the fact is that they think it's because birth doesn't work, that birth is unpredictable, that you can't really predict what your baby's going to do. And you know what? To a degree, that's true. To a degree, your baby has their own design of how things are going to go. You can't decide exactly when you're going to go into labor. You can't decide how labor is going to be. You can't decide if there's going to be complications, although there's definitely ways that you can reduce complications. And you obviously can't decide how long it takes for your baby to actually come, right? You can't actually decide that. Your baby is the one in charge here. Your body and your baby are going to work together to be able to birth your baby. And there may be certain things that your baby needs to do in order for that to happen. However, you can still get the birth you want without having to fight, beg, compromise. You don't have to have your birth plan go out the window. If you follow what I'm going to be teaching in these 5 days, you're going to have an idiot-proof birth plan as well. This means that your care provider will be able to follow this. They'll be able to read your birth plan in less than 5 minutes. They'll know exactly what you want, and you'll be able to get it. This means that even if your doctor doesn't show up the day that you go into labor and you're in the hospital, or you have a midwife coming to the house, they can read your birth plan over quickly and they'll know what you're wanting and what you don't want without it being this whole big thing where they have to try to read through, because the truth is they just don't have time. They really don't have time. So this is a lot of the reason why when you have pages and pages in your birth plan, it doesn't work. I'm going to teach you a very simple way to get your birth plan. But first, I'm going to also tell you one thing that you may not know. You do not want to be creating your birth plan at the very end of pregnancy. This is the biggest mistake that a lot of moms make, is they create their birth plan in the 3rd trimester. If you're already in the 3rd trimester and you're creating your birth plan, then make sure that you are also sending me your birth plan. I will help you to get back on track. Okay? So send it to carly@empoweringmomsbirth.com. Send it right directly to me. I will look it over because it's really crucial that you get back on track. In fact, this is what happened to Lisa, is that she wanted to have a vaginal birth after 2 previous C-sections. And her doctor had told her she couldn't do it. And her doctor had told her that she was too old and too fat and that there was just no way that she could do it. But Lisa really desperately wanted this. But when she came to me and worked through my Empowered Birth workshop back in April of 2021, she had no idea that she could actually get it, that she could actually witness the power of her own body. Nobody else wanted to even let her try for labor. So learning what I taught her about birth plan creation, she was able to then decide, I'm going to stay home. I might even just do unassisted because we can't find a midwife to support me. And in the end, she almost got it. The only reason she didn't is because she didn't have one of the 5 pillars of empowerment around her. She didn't have the right support. Her mother came in, her partner came in. They were not aware that she had planned to have an unassisted birth. They freaked out on her and they pushed her back into the hospital, where the hospital was like, yeah, no, you get a C-section. And then they basically scared her, but she could see the entire time that everything that I'd been teaching her in the classes that we'd done together, like, it was spot on. She's like, oh my gosh, like I saw exactly what you were telling me about with the pulling back of the curtain. And I'm like, yes, I know. So the thing is, though, you don't want to do that. Okay. You want to be creating your birth plan at the beginning of your pregnancy or before 26 weeks, ideally. And if you are not at that point, if you are still planning your pregnancy, if you're not even pregnant yet, then this is even better. Because if you're not pregnant yet, you have even more time to start planning ahead. And then you'll be able to do what Jenny did. Jenny had come to me after a very traumatic birth experience with her first baby. And she just didn't understand what happened because she had decided that she was going to read all the books. She was trying to take care of herself as best as she possibly could. She hired a doula. She was very well educated. She was asking her doctor a lot of questions. Her doctor was dismissing her and making it seem like she didn't need to know anything. She was on a need to know basis and didn't need to know anything. And then what happened is she switched to a midwife. But again, she didn't know about what was going on in the system. She didn't understand how to create her birth plan in a way that would actually work. She didn't know how to talk to the care providers. She didn't go to the right hospital either. She didn't know what I knew about that hospital. If she had happened to have come to me and we'd been friends beforehand, I could have warned her right away from that hospital. But she didn't find me until after. However, by working with me over a course of a year, helping me with the Empowered Birth workshops, she decided after saying to me in the beginning, I just want to help moms get this information so that what happened to me doesn't happen to them. But I'm probably never going to have another baby because I just can't risk it. And I have chronic high blood pressure. I had preeclampsia and I had a C-section, and they're just going to look at me and they're going to say, nope, you're going to get another C-section. And knowing what I know now about this health authority, it just seems like a big uphill battle. However, after a few rounds of working with me in the workshop and us getting into the classes with our students every single week, she ended up coming to me after about the fourth workshop and said, you know what? I think I might move up my timeline and I might just have another baby in the next year or two. I said, awesome. And then after the next workshop, said, you know what? I think I'm going to try this month to get pregnant. And then after that, she got pregnant and we worked through and navigated, found her an amazing care provider that we wouldn't have otherwise found unless we'd used this system that I'm going to teach you with this writing your empowered birth plan. And because she had her roadmap, which is what your empowered birth plan is, it's your roadmap, she was able to get the birth she wanted, which was an unassisted vaginal birth after cesarean in the hospital because she wasn't comfortable giving birth at home with her chronic high blood pressure. And she did it. She actually did it in an environment where they just don't do VBAC for moms that are 41 and have chronic high blood pressure and gestational diabetes and group B strep. And they just wouldn't do that. But they did it because Jenny had the tools in her tool belt to do this. You need a notebook and you need a pen. The reason you want your notebook is because you're going to be writing an exercise today. It's going to be quick, I promise. And you can do it within 15 minutes. And it's something that you can keep coming back to. So this is why I also suggest having a notebook so that you can continue to add to it. And if you need to have extra pieces of paper in that notebook and leave yourself space to keep writing, if you're like, you know, I think I might be coming back to this over the next few days and keep writing stuff, then definitely leave space for that. Because the fact is that I'm going to teach you a way to write your birth plan where you never have to try to take a childbirth class first to figure it out. You don't have to ask your doctor what your options are. You don't have to go and read a ton of birth books. You don't have to go and watch a whole bunch of videos. You don't have to overload yourself with childbirth education. You don't have to go into the mom groups and ask them what they put in their birth plan. Although, if you are looking at what other moms might be putting inside the Facebook group as an example, it's always great to look at that. But the fact is that here's why you don't actually want to follow the typical templates and checklists or try to get all of your information just from videos and books and blogs and social media. Why you don't want to just ask moms what to put in the plan, why you don't want to go to your doctor and ask what your options are. Here's why. It's very simple. Say you're craving a nice steak or even pasta, okay? Those are the two things that you have in your mind. It's like, I'd love steak or with a side of pasta. Or I'd love a chicken parmigiana. This is my favorite food. It's like, I'd love a chicken parmigiana with some fettuccine Alfredo. Whatever it is, whatever your favorite meal is, just picture that in your head right now. It doesn't have to be what I just said, but whatever your favorite meal is, picture that in your head. Think about how delicious it is. Think about how delighted you are when you take your first bite. Think about that restaurant that makes it just perfectly right for you every time. That you're like, I can't wait to go back to this restaurant with my partner. I can't wait to order this. Like it's date night and we're going to go to this restaurant. I'm going to have this meal. It's going to be fantastic. And then they have dessert and they have the drinks that they have here are just absolutely exquisite, and the atmosphere, and just really live into that moment. Okay. You got that vision? Okay. Now, say you've got this idea and now you're in a group of people and you're clear on what you want, but you haven't actually said what you want, because maybe what you want is not what the group is saying is what's best. Maybe the group that you're with is saying to you, well, we're kind of thinking burgers. You're like, oh, I mean, I really want pasta, but I mean, I guess I'll go with burgers because the burger joint is closer, and like my pasta restaurant isn't here. Where I'm right now, I'm on vacation. My particular pasta restaurant is not here. So I guess all they have is burgers over here. Or I guess all they have is like something else that maybe it's okay. It's not really what you want. Or maybe there's a restaurant that you're like, I'd really love pasta. I'd really like chicken parmigiana. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Well, there's this burger place and it also happens to have a pasta menu. I'm sure they have something there. So we can go there, and you're compromising. Okay. So you get there, and obviously they do have some version of the meal that you want. It's not exactly. They probably don't have the right salad that comes with your gourmet meal. It's probably not the right atmosphere. It just doesn't feel the same. You take a bite and you can tell that they've warmed this under like a warmer, and that it's like something that they just slap together. Like it's not somebody who actually puts their heart and soul into making this dish the way that that it can be made. So you take a bite and it's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I wanted, but it's not really exactly what I wanted. Well, this is what happens when you go and create your birth plan using templates and checklists from other people's ideas of what a natural birth is, especially if you're wanting a natural birth as naturally as humanly possible. Because if you want a birth that's natural as naturally humanly possible, I'm sorry, but our birth culture and the way that our childbirth education is and the way that our medical system is does not offer that. They've never seen it. There are very few people who have actually witnessed a true physiological birth. The way that our birth culture does not depict true physiological birth, because true physiological birth is so different and so unique to you as an individual, and it's unique and different every single time. It doesn't follow the textbook. And the textbook is easier to teach. However, the textbook, when you go by that one, unfortunately, that model doesn't work. And I'll share more about that in the Natural Birth Blueprint Masterclass. If you're not signed up, you did get a ticket when you signed up for this Empowered Birth Workshop. But you'll be able to ask your questions of me. You'll be able to get more information on how to plan a natural birth. I'm going to give you my entire framework. I'm going to teach you what you need to know to get the birth you want without having to fight, beg, or compromise. No giving up, no giving in, no crumbling under the pressure, no leaving your dignity at the door. That's my promise to you. You follow what I'm going to teach you, you're going to have your amazing natural birth. No more leaving your dignity at the door. No birth plans going out the window. Nobody pressuring you into things you don't want. You're going to be able to be strong in your convictions of what you want. You're not going to fall into the natural birth traps. Okay? So again, Jenny did this. In fact, the Empowered Birth Plan template is something she designed. She designed this, and then she's also my partner, and she's created the birthhousenetwork.com. And we've been working together now for about 2.5 years. And she is able to take what I have taught her, and she made it better. She created this amazing template. All you have to do is make sure you download that. Okay? All right. So now here's the next thing that you need to know about these checklists. If you're using those checklists, you're basically ordering off a menu option that's not yours. This is why I do not use the templates and checklists as the first step. Most moms, when they create their birth plan, they're using the checklists and templates as the first step. These things are helpful in giving you an idea of what you want after you have your roadmap. But you need to create your roadmap first, which is why we have a blank template model, which again, you can get when you signed up for this workshop. All you have to do is get that first email, make sure you have that template, because we're going to be using that on day 3 and day 4. You're going to be able to have your birth plan basically ironed out. You're going to know exactly what you need to do. What I'm going to teach you in this workshop is how to create your ideal birth plan. This is the birth plan that is your roadmap. Yes, birth is unpredictable. Yes, we do also want to have a backup plan. However, that being said, your backup plan is literally backup. You don't hand that to your care provider. You hold on to that. You have your partner or your doula hold on to that in case something comes up where that plan might be needed. But what you're aiming for is your birth, your ideal birth. So many moms, they say, you know what? I really want a natural birth, but we'll see how it goes. No. I'm getting a natural birth. If something changes and I have my hard lines in the sand of when something is going to change, what I'm going to do, I'm still going to get the birth I want. That's your new mantra, okay? You're going to get the birth you want without having to fight, beg, or compromise, even if you have to deviate a little bit from your plan. You're still going to have everything that's most important to you using this model. And here is step 1, okay? You ready? Take out your notebook, take out a piece of paper, and here's what you're going to want to do. Write down up at the top everything I don't want, fears, worries, doubts, insecurities, anything that comes up for you. You can start doing this exercise as soon as you get off this video. It's very, very simple. We live in a birth culture, okay? So even if you have never given birth naturally before, if this is your first time giving birth, or you've had nothing but traumatic experiences before that, then that's even better. So for traumatic experiences, this is for the moms who've already given birth. What you want to do is write down everything that you hated in your previous birth experience, all the stuff you definitely do not want to happen again. Write those out first. You're going to be able to know those ones right like the back of your hand, obviously, because you're thinking about them. You're thinking about them even now as you're thinking about your natural birth, how to get it. It's like, I just don't want what happened to me last time to happen to me again. If you are currently pregnant with your first baby or haven't even gotten pregnant yet, then yours is a little different. Yours is picking out those stories that you've heard out there, or things that you've seen on TV, or things that you've read in a magazine or in a childbirth book. I mean, birth is everywhere. All you really have to do is go into any mom group and you're going to hear birth stories. You're going to see birth stories. And you have your own idea of what you want. If you're wanting a birth as naturally as humanly possible, then I know one thing about you. You don't want those interventions. You've heard that there's some interventions out there that just don't sound awesome. Maybe it's the vaginal exams. Maybe it's like, I really don't want people to stick their fingers up in my cervix. That sounds awful. Maybe it's the thought of tearing. Maybe it's the thought of being cut. Maybe it's the thought of the IV. Maybe it's the thought of just being in the hospital. Maybe it's the thought of having strangers up in your business or seeing you naked. Maybe that's what's freaking you out. Whatever it is, I mean, you know yourself better than I know you. I'm just giving you a list of things that I was worried about as a first-time mom that led me on my journey to finding a way to plan my birth in a way that I wouldn't have those things. Maybe it's even as simple as I really don't want a lot of pain, but I definitely don't want the epidural either. So I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place. Not really, because birth can actually be painless, or you don't notice the pain. It's just in the background and you don't really care. For more on that, though, you can watch one of my videos on my channel. I think it's called Birthing with Ease and Ecstasy with Michelle Short. So just go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@empoweringmomsbirth, and you'll be able to find that video. And I believe I put a picture that just says like sex in it because it also ties into sex. If we started thinking about birth the same way we do sex, then we know the difference between good sex and bad sex. We know the difference between awesome sex, amazing sex, orgasmic sex, and painful sex. We know those differences. Well, your body works the same way. Birth is a sexual act. So if you want to know more about birthing with ease and ecstasy, make sure you check out some of my other videos and like, share, and subscribe to my social media channels. I have Instagram, I have Facebook, I have YouTube. And what you're going to want to do is make sure this information gets out there to moms, because I guarantee you it's not being taught out there. In fact, the reason I'm doing this in the first place is because when I was looking for it, it didn't exist. I had to build it. And I wanted to get it out there so that you'd be able to have access to it. So again, here's your exercise. And all you have to do is write down your fears, your worries, anything that you didn't like. When you're watching birth videos or you're consuming birth content that makes you go, ooh, I don't like that. That kind of freaks me out, kind of scares me. Pay attention to how your body feels. If it's contracting and inward and you feel tense, that's an indicator of something you need to write on this list. Okay. The next thing is that tomorrow we're going to shift this around. But once you've written down all of those things, and you're going to keep coming back to this too, you can keep coming back to this exercise as much as you want to. In fact, if you're not even pregnant yet, you're going to have more time to do this exercise. If you're already past 30 weeks, though, you're just going to want to do this as quickly as possible. If you're still in your first trimester, you're still going to want to do this relatively quickly. You're going to want to get this done within a week, because you need to also be able to take your birth plan as your roadmap to get everything else in your birth. And I will tell you more about that on day 5. All right. So again, write out your list of fears and worries, insecurities, things you don't like, things that you don't want. Write them all down. And then after you've done that, go for a walk in nature, do something relaxing, take your mind off of it, put it away, because it's heavy. It's heavy stuff. It can trigger a lot of things. And if you don't take those deep breaths and you don't take that time for yourself, that energy can still live in your space and it can affect the rest of your day. And if you're already pregnant, it can also affect your pregnancy itself and how you feel. You might actually feel nauseous. If you're pregnant and feeling nauseous, that's not a great feeling, right? Or you might get some aches and pains. In fact, the more tense you are, the more that actually shows up in your body as pain or as something where you just don't feel good. And you don't want that. So go take a walk, relax, enjoy, and I will see you tomorrow. Okay. Talk to you soon.